Good morning, traders. I am just doing a little bit of scalping back on the simulator this morning, and just thought I would record a little bit of live trading here. Just before we get started, the disclaimer, as always, trading equities and futures involves substantial risk of loss, and it's not suitable for all investors. Past performance is not indicative of future results. All right, with no further ado, let's get going here. So, I'm really going to try and focus on, rather than just quote unquote teaching, actually giving you guys some solid rules. Not rules, but tools, excuse me. I was just reviewing my trading rules, so apparently I've got it on my mind. So, a good question that you can ask yourself is what is the market trying to do, and is it doing a good job at doing it? So right now, we can see that the bulls are currently in control. And for those of you that don't know, this is Bookmap. It's a trading platform, and I'm a futures trader. This is the NASDAQ, although you can get Bookmap for stocks as well. So the first thing that I'm seeing is this trend line right here. Ooh, did not mean to do that. Let's try that one more time. There we go. Cool. So, of course, a trend line is going to just kind of be angular support and resistance. And unfortunately with Bookmap, like with most charting platforms, you can copy and paste trend lines, but with Bookmap, for whatever reason, they haven't implemented that yet. So I am just going to kind of draw a parallel line like that. Perfect. Okay. So generally, I would just copy and paste and move this line over here. But in this instance, since I can't, I'm just, of course, drawing it in. So, but generally, when you have a channel like this, an upper channel, you can use this upper trend line to gauge where your target should be. So, generally, you would want to put your target just inside of this trend line. So, and then with Bookmap, I'm very fortunate to be able to see where the areas of high liquidity are. So, and by high liquidity, I mean there's a lot of standing limit orders in the order book. So right here, you can see that there's kind of a large, bulge on the little profile here, histogram, and then you can see that's reflected by this bright white area on the chart. So basically any area with white, a big white stripe indicates high liquidity. So same thing, prices right here, we can see this area of high liquidity providing resistance. So another thing that's really valuable is the use of the volume profile. Right here you can see we have volume as a measure of time. But on the volume profile on the right here, we can see volume as a measure of price, basically. So one thing that's really important is that when you have high volume nodes, price is generally going to have a harder time breaking through that. Like it'll get in this area and it'll slow down a lot. And then concurrently, low volume nodes also provide resistance in the same way, like kind of like a balloon. The skin of a balloon provides some resistance, but once that balloon pops, price tends to move through it really quickly. So right now we can see we're approaching this resistance area, and you can see it matches up perfectly with this high volume node. So this is volume that took place earlier in the session here, if I can back it up. So yeah, you can see that we had this trading range up in here, and now we're testing the bottom of this trading range. And this is actually called flipping the book. So you had buyers right here at this level, and now you can see that the book has flipped. So support has turned into resistance, basically. So let's take a look here and we'll see what happens. So in terms of kind of gauging what might happen, Either we're going to break through this resistance and break up into this, you know, this is the session high right here. So either we're going to break through this resistance and we might range around in here, potentially going higher, or this level might hold and we might see a break and go in and start testing these lows again. So it's a good idea always to kind of come up with some potential scenarios before entering a position, so that way you kind of have a good idea as per what might happen ahead of time, and then all you need to do is essentially just wait for confirmation to see one of these scenarios play out, and then that's how you gauge your entry. All right, so let's see what happens here. So this is also the POC, which is the area where the most trading took place, and you'll often get bounces off of the POC. Okay, see, we're getting some rejection here. The cumulative delta is on the downside, so the bears are becoming more aggressive, and it's a pretty good bounce. It might test it one more time here. You can see the shorts are adding in more. They're selling at lower and lower levels. Now we've got some support building here. You can see there's weak volume on the buy side, so I'm going to enter a short here. And I'm going to put my stop right above there. And we want to see shorts selling at lower and lower levels. There's pretty good resistance in the limit order book right there. So now you can see they're selling lower, which is good. We're taking out the support levels. There's more support right in this area. So I want to see a break, and I want to test this low volume node down here. And I'm going to put my target right at that level. I'm going to move my stop to right there. It's high volume on the long side there. There's some absorption in these yellow tick marks. All right, now we're in business. And target hit. Perfect. All right, so yeah, let's just briefly go over what happened. So, as I'm sure you recall, we were testing the POC right here, the point of control, and that's where the highest level of volume was during the session so far. And like I said, these high volume nodes are going to provide some resistance. And sure enough, as soon as we got up to this level, you could see the white start building. So sellers are, we've got a lot of resistance there, and then they're adding to their position, adding, selling at lower and lower levels, showing that we have continuation, which is really good. And then you can see we kind of hit a support level right there where it didn't want to break through this high volume node, right? And then we had some sellers put some resistance in here, and it absorbed all of these orders, right? Because these limit orders in the order book, they're gonna absorb. A limit order, as I'm sure you probably know, is just say I want to get in at this price, you know. Oh, let me turn off my drawing tool. Say I wanted to get in here. That's a limit order, so it's not going to fill me until price reaches that level. Whereas a market order, you just hit it and it'll fill you at whatever the best available price is in that moment. So market orders are going to move the market. Market orders are going to move price, whereas limit orders are going to absorb, but they don't necessarily move price. So, and you can see our imbalance indicator down here. You can see that we are building a pretty strong imbalance to the long side. So as we approach this level, you can see that there is a significant imbalance on the bid. And then this is the cumulative delta. So these are your market orders or aggressive orders. And you can see that there's quite a bit of aggression here, as reflected in this high volume as well. So what I'm expecting to happen here is we're probably going to get a bounce right here around 96.99 at this high volume node. And then we may bounce and then start moving back up higher again, or we're going to break through that support level and start moving into price discovery for those lower prices. So let's see what happens. So I'm looking for a retrace to this high volume node and then a bounce, at which point I may add, or not add, but short again. Take that order out. And I get this low volume node is providing resistance here. Okay. You can see our imbalance indicators favoring the short side now. Okay, so we had an attempt to get higher, and then we had a failure. So this made a lower high. So we've got a high, a higher high, and now we have a lower high. So that failure may indicate that this would be a good short. Yeah, there we go. A little pullback, and I'm in. Oh my goodness. Okay, I'm gonna stop right above there. All right, well, no big deal. Stop outs definitely do happen. But, you know, a stop is a good thing because it, you know, protects your account. And fortunately, we didn't have enough follow through on the sell side there. All right, we're hitting this high volume node in the POC, providing some resistance there, and looking for a breakout. Sellers are adding. And I wanted to take a short there. Okay, we're hitting some resistance or support here, rather. Delta's trying to get back up to the upside. You can see some buying starting to build in here. High volume, though, on the short side. There's some absorption. So again, we're hitting the high volume node. Important to keep track of these. And as for volume indicators, if you guys want a free one, if you go to TradingView, whoops, make a new tab here, TradingView. So I use depends on what platform you're using, of course, but most platforms are going to have some sort of volume profile available. It may or may not be free, depending on what you're using, but TradingView does have plenty of them. And I think the one that I use on TradingView is just called Session Volume. So this is a 30-minute chart, and my indicators. Let's search session volume. Yep, session volume. That's the one. So I don't see it on this chart. TradingView is always kind of weird to me. Sometimes it doesn't always like to show it, but if I switch to a 5-minute chart, is it turned on? Yeah, it's enabled. Well, yeah, I'm not 100% sure why it's not showing. you just try removing it. Session volume. Yeah, it sure doesn't want to cooperate. Let me try on a 1 minute. Well, I don't know. We can go 15 minute. Yeah, it sure does not want to show up. Weird. Okay. Well, I don't want to waste too much time, but yeah, you could check it out and experiment with that and see what you can get out of it. Okay, so again, we're hitting this high volume node right here, and we can see we do have an imbalance to the long side. Delta is still in the red, so the the sellers are still active. Okay, buyers are adding into their positions here, so we might. Oh, sellers are sweeping the book. Got it. So now we're going to test this high volume node down here. And we'll look for a bounce at that level.
Trade sell 18.
Some absorption there. Heavy selling. Okay. Now it looks like we might be getting a trap. So if we get a bounce here and we start moving higher, these sellers are going to be trapped, and when they have to close their positions, that's going to push us higher. So either that, or I mean, this is pretty high volume compared to the rest of the area, and you can see we had a heavy imbalance, and that's actually decreasing. So I don't know. I mean, this is long-term liquidity. I don't see anything being removed here, but yeah, we'll see what happens. Okay, looks like we're going to test the session low here. Yeah, we're breaking through. A little absorption. If we can break through that absorption, I'm going to short. Delta is on the inclining. So this is important to see. Whenever you're hitting a support area like this and you're looking for a breakout, you want to make sure that the structure is holding. So in this instance, the structure is holding pretty good. I mean, you do see some definite buying coming in as reflected on the volume chart down here. But if we're looking at like right there, that structure held pretty well. Looking right here, we're just starting to slip through it a little bit. But I'm going to see if we try and test this high again, and we'll see if we can get another push down. Because this, like I said, the sellers aren't going to want to let go of this high volume node. And then you can also see that this line corresponds with the low volume node on the volume profile here. Structure is holding. It's a lot of absorption here, though. So it's going to take heavy volume to get through. Sellers, you can see the buyers were adding to their positions right there, and now they're coming in and sweeping the book. So you get a burst of higher volume, and they're going to come in and sweep it. A little bit of absorption there, but my money's on us breaking through here. So let's see what happens. Okay, I'll take a short here. You can see the absorption happening. I'm hoping, since this is a break of a key level, all of these longs are trapped right now, so they have to sell in order to close out their positions, and all that selling is going to drive prices further down. We do have some definite absorption here, so the longs are definitely trying to keep this from going any lower. So what I'll probably do is maybe set like a trailing stop. I don't know if that's going to apply since I'm already in the trade, but I'll just kind of keep an eye, and I want to see that the seller's selling at lower prices, and I don't want to see any heavy absorption like that. So we'll see what happens. I want to make sure that this structure is holding more or less. But yeah, it's good to let your winners run. You wanna be able to identify that continuation. Okay, sellers are adding here. It's going to take heavy volume to break through this. And I'm going to set my stop up there. Yeah, you can see the buyers are adding to their positions. Yeah, this is going to stop me out. Okay. Well, we've got this low volume node here. I could move my stop, but I think I'm gonna leave my stop where it is, so I'm not taking too much of a loss. And I'm glad I did. They're really struggling to get through this. So now we've got 2 failures here. So I'm gonna close out this position. So we tried going down once, twice, 3 times. And I find if it doesn't do something 3 times, it generally doesn't happen. You can see there's a lot of limit orders right here in the book. So we can draw ourselves a horizontal line right at that level. And we can actually get another one at this level. The structure is holding though, so it's making kind of a bear flag. So if you look at it like this is kind of like the flagpole, and then this is the flag. So when you get a strong impulse, and then the structure tends to hold like this, moving sideways, not up. That's called a flag pattern, and you can see we got another one here actually. And generally, when you get a flag pattern like this, it's going to break out and continue in the direction of the previous trend. So, probability-wise, we'll probably see a break to the short side. But we'll have to see what happens. But there's a strong sweep of the book right here. So we'll see if they can break through all that. I'm actually going to place a sell. Okay, cool. That was called a sell stop. So normally, if you were to sell below the current market price, it would put it in as a market order. But I basically put a sell stop. So I have an order in here. So it's basically saying if we break this price, I want to get in. So rather than just selling at the market, it's a little bit safer because you can put your sell order in there, and just if we get the breakout, it'll fill you. So okay, good volume there. Nice. Okay, there's some heavy buying coming in the order book. All right, so that was a good little scalp. Didn't get a ton out of it, but it was decent. Anywho, I'll probably just leave it right there for now. So, just to kind of reiterate the important themes that we talked about. Um, we talked about the volume profile and how price is often going to slow down at high volume nodes. Because, okay, so when you think about it, when you have a high volume node, that means that, um, more or less sellers and buyers can agree upon prices in this area because there's a lot of trading that takes place. And then when you have a low volume node, that essentially implies that there's a disagreement about the price at this level. So price tends to move through it rather quickly. And then when we come back into it, and more trading ensues. So again, price is going to slow down at the high volume nodes, and the low volume nodes are going to provide some resistance, but like the skin of a balloon, when it pops, it rushes through it pretty fast. And we also kind of looked at some different patterns like bear flags. Of course, then they tend to break out in the direction of the prevailing trend. And using sell stops to trade breakouts, so it won't fail you until your order pushes through. But that's it for the most part. I'm very privileged to be able to use Bookmap, so I can see where the high liquidity is and the support and resistance as it ensues. So I really, really, really like this platform a lot. I wish I would have switched over to this like a year ago. But anyways, I thoroughly enjoy using it, and I hope you guys learned something. And we'll see you next time. Take care.